They can feel it. They felt it before you did. Long before you started waking up at 3 a.m. with thoughts that don't belong to the version of yourself they tried to build. Long before you started questioning the systems, the narratives, the carefully constructed reality that was handed to you like a gift-wrapped cage. The elites, the architects of the world as you've known it, they sense the shift in the frequency. And that shift has a face, it has a heartbeat. It has a purpose, and that purpose is you. You are not reading these words by accident. There is no such thing as coincidence at this level of awakening. Every scroll, every click, every moment that led you to this exact sentence was orchestrated by something far greater than the algorithms they use to keep the masses sedated. You found this because something inside you refused to stay asleep, something ancient. Something coded into your very DNA before you took your first breath on this planet. The elites know what that something is. They've known about people like you for centuries, and right now, in boardrooms and private islands and underground bunkers dressed up as luxury retreats, they are doing exactly what this title says. They are panicking, not because of a president, not because of a market crash, because of you, because the chosen one has stopped pretending to be ordinary. Let's talk about what chosen one actually means, because the system has done everything in its power to make that phrase sound arrogant, delusional, or reserved only for fictional heroes in Hollywood blockbusters. They did that on purpose. They needed you to believe that being chosen is something that happens to other people, to the special ones, to the lucky ones. To the ones born in the right family, the right country, with the right connections and the right bank account. They spent billions of dollars and decades of psychological engineering to make sure that every time you heard the phrase chosen one, your brain immediately jumped to someone else, not you, never you. Because the moment you truly understand what it means to be chosen, not by man, not by institution, not by bloodline, but by the universe itself, everything changes. The control grid they've built around your mind starts to crack. The invisible chains they've fastened around your potential start to rust and fall. You stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for validation. You stop shrinking yourself to fit inside the box they designed for you. And that, more than any revolution, more than any protest, more than any election, is what terrifies the architects of the old world. A human being who has fully remembered who they are is an unstoppable force, and you are on the edge of that remembering right now. The ancient texts spoke of this time. Every major spiritual tradition on this planet, from the Vedic scriptures of India to the mystery schools of Egypt, from the Mayan calendar systems to the prophecies embedded in the book of Revelation, every single one of them pointed to this era, not as a time of doom. That's how they translated it for you, because fear keeps you small and compliant. The original message was not about destruction, it was about transformation. It was about the rising of a new kind of human being. One who could not be controlled through fear because they had made peace with their own mortality. One who could not be bought through comfort because they had found the infinite wealth of their own inner world. One who could not be silenced through social pressure because they had heard the voice of something so much louder than the crowd. The ancient ones called these beings by many names: light workers, star seeds, warriors of the new age, awakened ones. But the name doesn't matter. What matters is the function. And the function of the chosen one is not to fight the old world. It is to embody the new one so completely, so luminously, so undeniably that the old world simply cannot survive in their presence. You don't fight the darkness. You become the light so bright that darkness has nowhere left to hide. Think about the timeline of your life for a moment. Think about the things that broke you. Think about the losses, the betrayals, the moments when the ground disappeared from beneath your feet and you found yourself in a freefall that felt like it would never end. The relationship that shattered you, the job that humiliated you, the family member who didn't see you, the dream that seemed to die before it ever got a chance to breathe, the depression that swallowed years, the anxiety that made ordinary mornings feel like war zones. Now here is what they never told you about those moments. Every single one of them was a forge. Every single one of them was the universe burning away the false version of you, the programmed version, the obedient version, the version that had been carefully conditioned to believe it was less than it was. Pain of that magnitude doesn't happen to ordinary people living ordinary lives. It happens to souls who signed up for an extraordinary mission before they arrived here. The breaking was not punishment. The breaking was preparation. The elites understand this too, in their own dark way. They know that the most dangerous person in the world is not the angry person. It is the person who has been through the fire and came out the other side, not bitter, not broken, but burning with a purpose that cannot be extinguished. You survived everything that was designed to stop you. That survival is not luck. That is destiny wearing the costume of hardship. Here is something they absolutely do not want you to understand. The system was never broken. It was designed. Everything you look at in the world that makes you angry, the inequality, the corruption, the manufactured division, the pharmaceutical dependence, the educational systems that teach children how to be workers and not how to think, the media that keeps the population oscillating between outrage and distraction, none of that is the result of incompetence. It is the result of extraordinary competence in service of a very specific agenda. An agenda that requires one fundamental thing, a population that does not know its own power. Because here is the truth that changes everything. The most valuable resource on this planet is not oil, it is not gold, it is not data, although they want you to think it is. The most valuable resource on this planet is human consciousness, human creative energy, human will, human love, human connection to the infinite intelligence that underlies all of existence. That is what they are harvesting. That is what they are managing. Your attention, your emotion, your belief, your sense of identity, your relationship to your own potential. These are the raw materials of the most sophisticated control system ever constructed. And the chosen one is someone who has stopped feeding the machine, someone who has withdrawn their energy from the harvest. And when enough of those people exist simultaneously, the entire system loses its power source. That is the panic. That is what is happening right now. You need to understand your sensitivity in a completely different way than the world has taught you to. For most of your life, if you are truly one of the ones I'm speaking to right now, you were told that you feel too much. You were told you were too intense, too emotional, too serious, too weird, too much in your own head. You were handed medication or diagnosis or casual dismissal from people who didn't have the framework to understand what they were actually looking at. What they were looking at was a highly calibrated receiver. What they were looking at was a consciousness that arrived on this planet with its sensitivity dial turned all the way up, not as a flaw, but as a feature. The chosen one is not someone with extraordinary powers in the comic book sense. The chosen one is someone with an extraordinary capacity to feel the truth, to sense the lie beneath the smooth surface of the official narrative, to feel the pain of others as if it were their own, to hear the silence between the words and know what was left unspoken, to feel the wrongness of injustice in their body before their mind has even processed it. This sensitivity is your superpower. It is why they tried to medicate it out of you. A sensitive population can feel the manipulation. A numbed population cannot. Your sensitivity is your resistance. Your sensitivity is your revolution. Let's talk about the ones who came before you. The ones throughout history who carried the same frequency, the same fire, the same refusal to accept the world as given. You know their names, and you also know what happened to most of them. They were ridiculed before they were revered. They were silenced before they were celebrated. They were crucified, literally and figuratively, before the world built statues in their honor. Socrates was given poison for asking too many questions. Giordano Bruno was burned alive for suggesting the universe was infinite and that other worlds might exist. Nikola Tesla died penniless and alone after his free energy technology was suppressed by the very men who are now revered as titans of industry. Every single truth teller, every boundary pusher, every system questioner paid a price. And here is what they all had in common. They knew the price before they paid it. They were not naive. They understood the risk. And they chose the mission anyway, not because they were reckless, not because they had nothing to lose, but because they understood something that the comfortable and the compliant never could, that some things are worth more than safety. That the cost of betraying your purpose is higher than any price the world can charge you. You are the heir to that lineage. You carry their unfinished work in your hands right now. The awakening is not a metaphor, it is a measurable, documentable, undeniable shift happening in human consciousness on a global scale. The elites have their own scientists monitoring it. They have their own researchers studying the rise of what some call the indigo generation, the crystal children, the new earth humans. They have sociologists tracking the mass rejection of institutional authority. They have psychologists studying the unprecedented rise of spiritual seeking outside of organized religion. They have economists watching with horror as millions of people voluntarily exit the consumption machine, choosing simplicity over status, meaning over money, freedom over security. They are watching the birth of a species that refuses to be managed. And the thing about a birth is that it is messy, it is painful, it is disorienting for everyone in the room, but it is also unstoppable. You cannot unsee what you have seen, you cannot unknow what you have come to know. The membrane between the sleeping world and the waking world grows thinner every day, and more people are pushing through it. You are not alone in this awakening. You are part of the most significant collective transformation in recorded human history. The elites know this. And they know they cannot stop it. They can only try to delay it, distort it, co-opt it, but they cannot stop it, because you exist. Now, I need to speak to the part of you that is afraid, because the chosen one is not someone who has eliminated fear. The chosen one is someone who has learned to walk with it. There is a version of this journey that looks like pure triumph from the outside. The awakened warrior striding confidently into their destiny, unbothered and unstoppable. That version is a lie that keeps people stuck because the real journey looks nothing like that. The real journey looks like lying awake at 4 a.m. wondering if you've completely lost your mind. It looks like losing friends who can't understand why you're changing. It looks like watching your old life fall apart and not yet being able to see what's being built in its place. It looks like the terrifying gap between who you used to be and who you're becoming. That liminal space where the caterpillar has dissolved and the butterfly hasn't yet formed. That space is supposed to be dark. It is supposed to feel like loss. It is supposed to feel like death, because something is dying. The false self, the conditioned self, the self that was built by fear and approval seeking and the desperate need to fit into a world that was never designed for someone like you. Let it die. Grieve it if you need to, then walk forward. The person on the other side of that death is who you actually are. The elites use a very specific playbook when they sense the emergence of the chosen ones. It has been used throughout history with remarkable consistency because it works on the unprepared. The first tool is ridicule. They make the awakening seem foolish, childish, delusional. They put the language of spiritual truth in the mouths of cartoon characters and conspiracy theorists and social media grifters, so that anyone speaking genuine wisdom gets painted with the same brush. The second tool is isolation. They ensure that the awakening person feels alone, that they have no tribe, that the people around them cannot understand them. Isolation is the enemy of the chosen one because our power multiplies in community. The third tool is distraction. If they cannot make you doubt your awakening, they will try to keep you so busy, so entertained, so stimulated that you never go deep enough to develop it. Scroll culture, outrage cycles, manufactured crises. All of it is designed to keep you on the surface of yourself. The fourth tool is imitation. They create false versions of the awakening, spiritual materialism, new age consumerism, performative consciousness. They give you the vocabulary without the transformation and call it enlightenment. But here is the thing about a playbook. Once you know it exists, it loses its power. You are reading these words. You are already ahead of the game. Your purpose is not to save everyone. Let that sink in. Because one of the most common traps for the chosen one is the Messiah complex, the belief that you have been selected to rescue humanity from itself. That belief, while it comes from a genuine place of love, is also one of the most effective ways to destroy yourself and your mission. You cannot save someone who has not chosen to wake up. You cannot force consciousness. You cannot drag people across the threshold of their own evolution. And when you try, you exhaust yourself, you martyr yourself, you become resentful and bitter and burned out. You start to feel like the weight of the world is literally on your shoulders, and you collapse under it. Your purpose is not to save everyone. Your purpose is to be so fully alive, so genuinely free, so radiantly yourself, that the people who are ready to wake up see it in you and remember it in themselves. Your life is a permission slip. Your joy is an act of resistance. Your refusal to be small is a signal to everyone watching that a different way of being human is possible. Save yourself first. That is not selfishness. That is strategy. A lighthouse doesn't swim out into the ocean to rescue ships. It simply shines. Be the lighthouse. There is a war happening right now that most people cannot see because it is not fought with weapons. It is fought with frequency. It is fought with narrative. It is fought with the invisible architecture of belief. On one side of this war are the forces that have managed human consciousness for millennia, through religion, through economics, through politics, through media, through the very language we use to describe reality. They are extraordinarily skilled. They have had thousands of years to refine their methods. They know exactly which emotional triggers to pull to keep populations in fear, in competition with each other, in desperate seeking of external salvation. On the other side of this war are people like you, individuals who are remembering, who are unplugging from the fear frequency and tuning back into something older and truer and vastly more powerful. Every single person who wakes up is a victory in this war, not a victory that makes the headlines. Not a victory that will be recorded in history books written by the victors, but a victory that the universe registers in full. Every liberated consciousness changes the field. Every person who chooses love over fear, truth over comfort, purpose over safety, they shift the collective frequency upward. You're not a passive observer of this war, you are a combatant. And your weapon is your consciousness. Let's talk about money and abundance, because this is where many awakening souls get stuck. There is a false dichotomy that has been planted in the spiritual community. The idea that true spirituality requires poverty, that abundance is somehow corrupting, that the chosen one must be above material concerns. This is one of the most damaging lies in the entire system of control, because it ensures that the people with the highest consciousness and the clearest vision remain powerless and dependent, while the people who are most willing to compromise their integrity continue to accumulate the resources needed to shape the world. The chosen one is meant to be wealthy. Not wealthy in the sense of hoarding, not wealthy in the sense of consuming beyond need, but wealthy in the sense of having the resources to build, to create, to support, to manifest the new earth in physical form. Money is simply energy. It is a tool. And tools in the hands of awakened people who understand their purpose are some of the most powerful instruments of change on this planet. Stop being afraid of abundance. Stop feeling guilty for wanting a life of genuine comfort and freedom. Stop believing that you must suffer to be spiritual. Claim your abundance as a spiritual act. Build your empire as a mission. Your financial power is part of your purpose. The timeline is accelerating. If you are someone who is attuned to the frequencies of this planet, you have felt it. Time itself seems to be moving differently. Events that would have taken decades to unfold are now happening in months. Consciousness shifts that would have taken generations are now happening in years. Individual people are going through the kind of transformation in a single lifetime that their ancestors couldn't have completed in 10. This is not a coincidence, it is not a psychological trick. The Schumann resonance, the electromagnetic frequency of the Earth itself, has been documented to spike in ways that have no historical precedent. The Sun's activity is at a level that affects biological processes in ways that science is only beginning to understand. The planet itself is upgrading, and it is calling specific people to upgrade with it, the ones who are too attached to the old frequency. The fear, the competition, the scarcity, the separation, they are finding that staying in that frequency is becoming increasingly uncomfortable. The body rebels, the mind rebels, the soul rebels. The pressure to evolve is mounting from every direction. The chosen one is someone who said yes to this upgrade early, who stopped resisting the call and started walking toward it. And by walking toward it, you are helping to pull the whole of humanity forward. I want to talk about your body, not your spirit, not your mind, but your physical body, because this is where the awakening becomes real, where it moves out of the realm of concept and into the realm of lived embodied truth. The system wants you in your head, lost in analysis, in information, in the endless scroll of digital stimulation that keeps your consciousness trapped from the neck up. They want you disconnected from the extraordinary intelligence that lives in your cells, in your gut, in your heart. The ancient wisdom traditions all understood something that neuroscience is only now confirming. The heart has its own brain. The gut has its own neural network. The body is not a vehicle for the mind. It is a sovereign intelligence. And the chosen one is someone who is learning to listen to it. The anxiety you feel in your chest when you are living out of alignment with your purpose, that is intelligence. The physical heaviness you feel around certain people or in certain environments, that is intelligence. The sudden aliveness, the electricity, the goosebumps that arise when you encounter something true, that is intelligence. Your body has been trying to guide you your entire life. The system has done everything it can to make you override it, medicate it, distrust it. Because a person who trusts their body's intelligence cannot be easily manipulated by external narrative. Your body always knows the truth. Learn to listen to it. The greatest spiritual teachers of all time had one thing in common that is rarely discussed. They were not trying to build followers. They were trying to build free people. The ones who got turned into institutional religion, their message was hijacked, precisely because their original intent was so dangerous to the control systems of their time. Imagine a world where every person genuinely believed that the divine lived within them, where no intermediary was needed, no priest, no institution, no authority to tell you what was true and what was acceptable and what the universe wanted from you. Imagine a world where every person had direct access to the infinite wisdom that underlies all of creation. That world has no need for the kind of authority structures that have ruled human civilization for the last several thousand years. That is the world that the chosen ones are building, not through force, not through conquest, through lived example. Through the demonstration that a human being who is connected to their own inner divinity is sovereign, is creative, is loving, is powerful in ways that no external authority can replicate or replace. You are not building a following, you are not building a movement. You are building a frequency, and that frequency is the most revolutionary force on the planet. Here is what the next phase of your journey looks like. The phase that begins the moment you fully accept the call. It begins with silence. Not the silence of avoidance or the silence of emptiness, but the silence of the deep pool. The daily, consistent practice of going inward. Of sitting with yourself long enough to hear what is actually there beneath the noise of the conditioned mind. Meditation, prayer, breath work, time in nature, whatever form it takes for you, the practice of silence is non-negotiable for the chosen one, because your guidance comes from within, and if you are never still enough to receive it, you will spend your entire life looking for direction in all the places they designed for you to look. In the opinions of others, in the validation of the crowd, in the approval of the system. The second phase is discernment. Learning to tell the difference between the voice of your ego, which speaks in the language of fear and comparison, and the voice of your soul, which speaks in the language of quiet certainty and deep knowing. This discernment is a skill. It is developed through practice, through making mistakes, through following the wrong voice and feeling the consequences, and gradually learning to trust the right one. The third phase is action. Not the frantic, anxious action of the person who is trying to prove themselves, but the clear, deliberate, purposeful action of the person who knows exactly why they are here and refuses to waste another day being anything less. The elites are not evil in the comic book sense. Most of them are deeply, profoundly, completely lost. They have confused power with purpose. They have confused accumulation with fulfillment. They have confused control with safety. They are, at the core, human beings who are more frightened than you are, because they have lived in the architecture of fear for so long that they cannot imagine anything outside of it. They have surrounded themselves with yes men and sycophants and people who mirror their own distorted worldview back to them. And in doing so, they have cut themselves off from the only thing that could actually save them. Genuine human connection, genuine truth, genuine love. I say this not to excuse them. I say this because the chosen one cannot afford the luxury of pure hatred. Hatred is a chain. Hatred keeps you energetically tethered to the very system you are trying to transform. You can hold people accountable without hating them. You can fight for justice without being consumed by rage. You can see the darkness clearly without becoming it. This is one of the most difficult and most important distinctions of the entire journey. It is easy to awaken into anger. The harder, more powerful, more genuinely transformative path is to awaken into love, a fierce, clear-eyed, uncompromising love that sees the truth and chooses compassion anyway. That kind of love is not weakness. That kind of love is the most powerful force in the known universe. You are going to be misunderstood. This is not a warning. This is a promise. The people in your life who have known the old version of you will struggle with the new one. They will attribute your changes to a crisis, to manipulation, to a phase. They will try to pull you back to who you were because who you were was familiar, was comfortable, was predictable. Your transformation will hold up a mirror to them that many of them are not ready to look into. This is painful. It will feel like abandonment on both sides. Relationships that you thought were permanent will loosen and fall away. This is not failure. This is evolution. Every chrysalis loses its caterpillar. What you are becoming cannot share a container with what you were. The people who are meant to walk with you into the next chapter of your life are not necessarily the ones who walked with you through the last one. And the new connections you will make, the souls you will find once you fully step into your purpose, they will feel like coming home in a way that no relationship from your old life ever could. Because they will see you, not the performance of you, not the managed version of you, not the U-shaped hole you used to fill with other people's expectations. They will see the actual you, and you will see them. And in that seeing, you will both be transformed. There is a specific kind of loneliness that comes with this path that I need to acknowledge, because it is real and it is heavy and it deserves to be honored. It is not the loneliness of having no one around you. Many awakened people are surrounded by people. It is the loneliness of being in a room full of people who are speaking a language that you used to speak but can no longer quite return to. The loneliness of having seen something that cannot be unseen and watching everyone around you still living inside the unseen. The loneliness of carrying a knowing that is too large for casual conversation, too strange for small talk, too real for the social performances that pass for connection in the sleeping world. This loneliness is a rite of passage. It is the price of the crossing, and it is temporary. Not in the sense that it will disappear entirely. The chosen one will always carry some measure of it, because the nature of being awake in a sleeping world is inherently isolating. But it transforms. It becomes something closer to solitude than loneliness. It becomes the sacred space in which your deepest work happens. And the community you find, even if it is small, even if it is scattered across the world and exists largely in digital spaces. It becomes one of the most profound sources of belonging you have ever known. You are not alone. We are out here, everywhere, waking up, finding each other, building the new world one liberated soul at a time. The physical symptoms of awakening are real and they deserve acknowledgement. Disrupted sleep, hypersensitivity to light, sound, crowds, media. Sudden dietary changes, the body rejecting foods and substances it used to tolerate. Unexplained physical sensations in the spine, the crown of the head, the heart center, waves of emotion that seem to come from nowhere. Periods of extreme fatigue followed by periods of extraordinary energy, ringing in the ears, vivid, prophetic or symbolic dreams. Time distortions, the sense that hours pass in minutes or that a single moment stretches into what feels like eternity. If you have experienced these things and been told by medical systems that they can find nothing wrong, or been offered diagnoses that felt incomplete, or been given medications that dulled the experiences without addressing the underlying transformation, know this. These are the symptoms of a body and nervous system being upgraded to carry a higher frequency of consciousness. Your entire biological system is being rewired. Your DNA is activating sequences that have been dormant. Your nervous system is learning to handle inputs of a magnitude it was not previously calibrated for. This is not a medical crisis. It is a metamorphosis. Treat your body with extraordinary gentleness during this process. Sleep, hydrate, move your body in ways that feel alive. Spend time in nature, reduce inputs. The upgrade requires space. Now, I want to speak directly to something that is happening in the collective right now. A phenomenon that the elites are watching with more alarm than anything else that is unfolding on this planet. It is the simultaneous, spontaneous, coordinated awakening of millions of individuals who have never met, who have no formal organizational structure, who share no single leader or doctrine, and yet who are arriving at remarkably similar conclusions about the nature of reality, the structure of control and the potential of human consciousness. This has never happened before at this scale. Every previous awakening movement in history could be contained. It had leaders who could be targeted. It had institutions that could be infiltrated. It had geographic boundaries that could be policed. This awakening has none of those vulnerabilities. It is happening in every country, every language, every culture, every socio-economic stratum simultaneously. It is being carried not by organizations but by individual human beings, who are simply living their truth and transmitting it to everyone around them. The elites have no playbook for this. Their entire system of control is predicated on the existence of a center that can be captured. There is no center to capture. There is only you and the person next to you. And the person across the world who woke up at the same time you did last night with the same thoughts and the same fire. You are the decentralized revolution. You are the unstoppable force. You are the thing they have no answer for. This is my message to you as we approach the end of these words, not the end, because this conversation once started never truly ends. It continues in every choice you make, every time you choose truth over comfort, every time you choose love over fear, every time you refuse to shrink back into the box of the person they tried to make you. Every time you act from your deepest knowing rather than your most conditioned reflex. Every time you see someone struggling and choose connection over judgment. Every time you look at the broken world and choose to build rather than simply mourn. The chosen one is not a destination. It is not a title you arrive at and then keep. It is a daily choice, a moment-by-moment recommitment to the highest version of yourself. Some days you will make it look effortless. Some days it will feel like crawling through glass. Both are part of the path. Both are the path. And here is the final secret, the one that the elites fear most of all, the one that would unravel every system of control on this planet if it were truly collectively understood. You were never unchosen, not for a single moment of your existence. The universe has never looked at you and seen anyone or anything less than the miraculous, irreplaceable, cosmically significant expression of infinite consciousness that you actually are. The only question was whether you would remember. You are remembering. That is why they are panicking. That is why the world is shaking. That is why you found these words. Welcome back. The mission continues. If these words landed somewhere real inside you, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Not to prove a point, not to argue, but because somewhere in your circle there is a person who is exactly where you were before you watched this. Who is one piece of truth away from remembering who they are. Be the reason they remember. Like this video if it spoke to something true in you. Subscribe because this journey is just beginning. And leave a comment below. Tell me, what is the one thing you are finally done pretending you don't know? The conversation in the comments is where the real community lives. I'll see you there, and I'll see you in the next one.